So welcome to Qigong Live Online, and this is we're going to do the breathing. We did the relaxing exercises, the warm-up exercise, because today I want to talk about the stance, which the first piece we'll do is the stance, then we'll do the breathing, the second one. So then Qigong stances, there's lots of different variations of how you stand, and there's no right or wrong, they're just different, and they're depending on sometimes the different exercises have different stances for the exercise. Knowing that the most important part about the Qigong is about the energy travelling up through the meridians. And right on cue, a helicopter goes across. Hang on a second, we'll just wait for that noise. For those who don't know, I'm in Bali, and it's a beautiful, hot, sunny day here. It's beautiful, and it's really hot. But we just wait for that helicopter to go across. Never planned for those things. So as I was saying, we're going to do the stances now. There's lots of different variations to the stances, and I'm going to go through a few different ones. So when I talk about them later on, when we're doing the beginner's exercise, we're going to go through different exercises. We'll talk about the stance. We've already had this particular lesson so that you understand a little bit more about them. Now, in our feet, in the bottom of our feet, there's only one acupuncture point, one major acupuncture point, and it's called kidney 1. And it's right between your pads. I'm not sure, can you see me? Yeah, you can. It's between the two big pads, and it's right in the middle between the two pads there. Yep. And it's kidney 1. Now, kidney 1, the Chinese character is Yong Chuan, but it means bubbling spring. And the theory is the energy from the ground comes up through that point and comes into your kidney meridians, into your body, comes up through your body, the kidney meridians, stored in your kidneys, and then all that energy is directed through the body as well. That's the theory about that understanding. So normally when we're standing on our feet, we're standing on those 2 points, on our kidney points, and you'll hear a lot of people talk about that in Qigong. So that's the 2 points. Connect to the ground for those points. And the idea in your mind is from those 2 points, you send out roots into the ground. And even if you're on a 10th story building watching this, you send it all the way through all the stories, into the ground, through the car park in the bottom, into the earth underneath the building, and connect yourself to the ground. Yeah, you can, I was on a flight the other day, you can connect your kidney 1 point to the ground on a plane because there's still gravity in the plane, so you still have this connection to the ground. So you have that feeling coming up through the kidney points into your feet. And you have the idea. And we send the roots down the outside of the root, just like a normal tree. We send the root down energetically, and the energy comes up the center of the root, just like normally in a tree where all the nutrients come up through the center of the root. The energy comes up through the center of the root for us. Yeah. So we stand on those 2 points. Now, there are some schools that have you double weighted, where you're weighted on the front part of your foot and you're on your heels as well. And sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can be weighted all the way on your heels and you're standing on your bones. So when you're on your heels, your bones, keep your toes on the ground, you have your bones touching the bones. Now this activates the extraordinary vessels that travel up through the bone area. Or you can come further forward and have the weight evenly distributed between your heels and your ball of your foot and the kidney point. Yep. And then you also have your toes touching the ground. And the toes are where all the ends of the meridians are. The ends of the meridian all come up through your toes, and so those points are touching the ground, so you have the energy coming up through the toes. But if you want to engage all the meridians and to get the full power of the meridians in your body, then you need to move forward to the balls of your feet, leave the heels on the ground, but there's no weight in the heels, are just touching lightly, but you're actually on the balls of your feet and you feel your toes. You can grip your toes and then relax your toes, and then you're on the balls of your feet. Yep. And to do that, you need to bend your knees slightly, so your knees are bent, because otherwise if you have them straight and you lean forward, you feel like you're leaning forward like that. I'll just turn around so you can see you're leaning forward like that, and you don't want to do that. But how you compensate is you bend your knees and it'll bring you back just straight again. And your knees are only just got a slight bend, it's not a huge bend, just a slight bend. And that'll allow you to stand on the balls of your feet. As soon as you engage your muscles, which is what happens as soon as you bend your knees, and now you stand on the balls of your feet with your toes touching the ground, it engages all the energy in the meridians. Your heels are just touching the ground lightly, and there's no weight in them. So that's the idea of that. This is for stance. So there's, as I say, different ways. This is a particular way. This is the best way to engage your meridians, energy in your meridians, because you're standing on your muscles. As soon as you engage, stand on your muscles, it engages all the energy in your meridians. Yeah, that's pretty simple to do that. As I say, there are exercises where you're on your heels, and there are exercises where you're on your heels and the front part of your foot, and then there's other exercises where you're on the front part. Very good. Now, the distance between the feet apart is a big thing. You'll see people doing exercise with different feet placements. Now, generally you won't see the feet facing off like that. facing off to the side that way. You won't generally see that as a stance. You'll see it when we're going to introduce the bow, which is the lesson 5. I think I'm going to do the bow. When you actually have your feet together like that. But there's a reason why you're doing that, for the particular energy that happens in the body. But generally when you're doing exercise, you won't have your feet out that way, this way here, because what it does is from your hip joints, it opens up your hip joints this way, it opens up your pelvis this way. I'll do it that way so you can see it opens it that way. We actually want it closed down so the head of the femur is hanging directly from your pelvis and it's hanging directly down. But as soon as I turn the feet out, then it turns the balls around that way. And that's not the way they were actually designed. They're designed with their feet pretty much facing towards the front, and they turn them back that way. So they're hanging directly down onto the front part of your feet. Engage the muscles, engages the meridians. Yeah, very good. Knees slightly bent. Good. Now the next piece is when we do the stance. So normally a single horse stance for a person, you'll hear the horse stance. Oh, why do they call it a horse stance? Good question. They call it a horse stance because it's like sitting on a little horse. You sort of sit there because your knees are out to the side. So you're sitting on a little horse this way. Your knees aren't facing towards each other. They're out and your knees are above your toes. And so you feel like you're just sitting on a little horse, and that's why they call it horse stance. So a single horse stance is one of your foot spaces. So if you put your foot down that way, and the width of the length of your foot that way, and where your toes touch, then the foot goes on the other side of where your toes are. And that space between that one there and that one there, in theory, is the distance between your hips. From one hip to the other is about the same distance from there to there. And it gets the alignment correct. Now, remember the same thing, your knees go out that way. So your knees are above your toes. You don't want your knees in, the knees out the toes. There are exercises where you bring your knees together, but it's a different reason. This normally you stand with them above that way. Good. Next one, double horse stance. So you're going to do 1 and you're going to do 2. This is doing it exact for you. And then the same thing again. You don't stand with your knees this way. You stick your knees out that way. Yeah, and stick the knees out that way so their knees are above your toes. So you have the same idea of the horse stance. Yep. So we have a triple horse stance. Of course, in time, you'll just know how far away they are. A triple one's out there like that. Now the same thing again. Now you're going right deep now. Now we're having to stand with our feet out that way. Knees above the toes, the best you can. Yeah. Now there's something else that has to happen during this posture. I'll come back to do a double to show you. When we're standing in a single horse stance, when you bend your knees to go forward, standing on the balls of your feet with your toes engaged, so you engage your muscles, so it engages the meridians. Heels just resting on the ground, no weight in them. To do that, there's a very important thing you need to do, which is to do with the stance. And so when you do that, we bend your knees, weight on the forward boards of the feet. You need to tuck your pelvis. You need to bring your pelvis forward. I'll show you what it's. Instead of have your bum out this way, you want to tuck it forward and then relax. So it's like tucking it underneath and then sit down and relax on it. As soon as you do that, it changes the energetics that come through your hips, changes the energy that comes through your groin as well. Everything changes as we do this. Yeah. So go back to the front. We're back to the front. Single horse stance, kidney points, toes touching the ground, engages the muscles. The energy starts moving up. Good. Knees slightly bent, and then tuck your pelvis. And then relax your pelvis. Once you tuck it, you make sure you let it relax afterwards. Don't just tuck it and hold it there because you don't want to have the tension. Tuck the pelvis forward and then just relax. Good. Now we're in a very, very good stance energetically. As soon as I engage that, I can feel the energy coming up through. The energy comes up through the yin meridians in your legs and goes down the yang meridians. And I can feel the energy change just by that stance. Simple as that. So when we're doing exercise later on, we'll be doing different exercise in stances, and I'll talk about the different stances we're in, and so you'll have reference because you've done this class. You'll have reference to understand where the stances are. There's a few other stances, but this will do for a nice beginner's one. These are nice generic ways of understanding the stances, and when they talk about horse stance, you'll understand what they're saying. And also about the feet, direction of the feet. Don't have the feet out. There are exercises that do that, but generally they're not. They're facing this way to keep the energy circulate. Close your pelvis. You don't have an open pelvis, you have your pelvis closed, so the energy travels up through the meridians easier. Very good. And then we have the 3 different, the single, double and triple horse stances. So we stand, remember, knees go out above your toes and tuck your pelvis. There you go. That'll keep you busy. and practice that. Go back to this class, and if you can't remember that, because I was speaking quite fast, I'm a Kiwi and I speak quickly, I apologise for that. When I get excited, I even speak faster, so it's okay. So you might have to turn it down, slow it down for you. Anyway, hopefully that's useful to you, and just stay tuned. If you want to, you can stay and do the next one, which we're going to do the breathing. We're going to talk about the basic breathing in Qigong as well. Very good. So have a good day, and yeah, it's a beautiful day. Enjoy yourself, relax, be calm. Bye-bye.